Hi everybody, it's Peter Bird here from Optimal Nutritional Excellence. Just having a wee check-in with you. I have been running a series of vlogs in relation to the cornerstones of unwellness. Cornerstones of unwellness being, I guess, the flip side of wellness. So when these systems that I'm talking about, one of them I'll be giving a vlog today on, when these systems are online, they are cornerstones of wellness. When they are suppressed or compromised, then that has a flow-on effect to create a situation, an internal environment that's conducive to disease. So today I'll be talking about mutation of the DNA. Now, why is that important? What's that to do with nutrition? How does it relate to you? And how does it potentially affect your health? DNA mutation in and of itself is a concern. So when that mutated DNA cell replicates, it then can become cancerous. It can become a cancer. It's mutated. Mutation means that it's a malformed copy of the original. So it's damaged DNA. There's, in a normal, healthy system, we have mutations happening all the time. Now let's put it into context. We have approximately 40 trillion human cells in our body. Now that's more than double the amount of stars in the Milky Way. It's a pretty hard number to get your head around. I certainly can't envisage a trillion, let alone 40 trillion. So we have approximately 40 trillion human cells, and each of those cells have photocopiers in them, in simple terms. And as that cell wears out, now each cell has what we call a programmed death. When we buy an appliance, it has a lifespan. It will work for a period of time, and then it will start to wear out, and then it will cease working. The human cell is the same. It has a programmed death. Now, each, depending on what cell it is, whether it's a bone cell or a liver cell or an eye cell, or it'll have a different lifespan. And we have about 3.8 million cells per second that wear out. So what happens is that when a cell starts to get to the end of its life, it will stop producing this photocopier in its cell that it uses to replicate and make a new cell or replicate itself. What happens is that the cell goes, I'm getting old, I'm got a programmed death, my clock is running out, and I know that I'm not producing DNA that's healthy. So I'm going to send out a signal to the immunity system to say, look, I need you to come and dismantle me. I need you to come and break me down and take me away to the scrap yard because I'm worn out. I've stopped reproducing my DNA. I'm no longer doing that. It could be damaged. Then the immunity system comes and it destroys the cell and breaks it down. Now, that's a normal, natural, healthy process. When we have exposures to environmental toxins, smoking and alcohol and pollution, now that's a small part of it, and biggest part of it, the typical Western diet, high in ultra-processed foods, high in animal protein, then what happens is that has a suppressing effect on the mechanisms that messenger mechanisms. In Western diet, we have foods that promote growth when we shouldn't have growth. Now, they are called IGF-1s, and I won't go into them today, but what they do is when this poor old cell is wearing out and it stops producing its DNA that isn't, it knows will be faulty because the cell's getting to the end of its life. When we get this rocket fuel, we get this the typical Western diet, what it does is it artificially pushes the cell along and creates it to have a longer life than it should. That cell can end up starting to replicate damaged DNA. So that's one way of damaged DNA being produced. Another way is that every now and again, the phytochemicals, even in a healthy cell, in the process of replicating a new cell, that the DNA is damaged. Under normal circumstances, it's generally not a problem because the immunity system has a special forces division. So we have the special forces division are made up of T cells, natural killer cells, that's their name. Macrophages, one of my favorite, they come along and gobble up things. Tumor infiltrating lymphocytes. Now, they eliminate early stage tumors, and they do that by basically injecting a substance into the tumor, and it dissolves the tumor. I mean, it's incredible. The human body is absolutely incredible if we give it half a chance, if we feed it what it needs, if we don't put into it foods that will suppress these systems. So DNA mutation in and of itself is a relatively natural process that happens now and again. In fact, just as a sideline, DNA mutation can be a beneficial thing too. Through the evolution of the human being, a mutation can allow us to become resistant to a bacteria or a virus, or allow us to adapt to an environment. But primarily, DNA mutation that is allowed then to replicate can lead on to disease, and primarily cancer. So you want all these systems, you want this special forces group to be switched on and on high alert all the time. And unfortunately, eating the typical Western diet, high in animal protein, high in ultra-processed foods, creates a burden on the system. And it's not so much the animal products themselves, it's the amount we're having. Though certain animal products, red meat, etc., are a bit more tougher on the body. Certainly ultra-processed foods, in strict terms, a lot of those aren't really foods. They're a combination of chemicals, stabilizers, emulsifiers, that they're designed to give the product a shelf life. Has nothing to do with health for you. It's got to do with profit for the company that's selling it in most cases. These systems these natural killer systems, these macrophages and T cells and tumor infiltrating lymphocytes, they all get suppressed. The message gets dialed down. And so DNA that's damaged is able to be replicated and can get away and become potentially a tumor or cancer. That old cells that should be wearing out are actually, through the diet that we have, they're promoted to actually keep living, and they replicate DNA that becomes damaged. So the message here is really simple. What I advise you to do, what the evidence advises everyone to do, is eat less of the typical Western diet and more of the whole food plant-based diet. That's your leafy greens, your vegetables, all your colors, your nuts, your seeds, your legumes, your whole grains, and your wonderful mushrooms. When we do that, the balance swings back towards health as opposed to creating an environment of unwellness. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. It is fairly simple, and like any of these subjects that I present, obviously they're incredibly complicated, and people with way more qualifications than me that spend their whole life focusing and studying just one of these areas. But what I've explained to you in simple terms gives you a clear picture of what happens within the body when we eat the typical Western diet, and what will happen in the body when you move away from the typical Western diet down towards the end of the spectrum where there's more whole foods. So that's it. I just wanted to check in and say hi. I just wanted to thank you very much for watching this. That if you have any feedback, please give it to me. I'm really open to feedback. If there's anything specific that you'd like me to cover and talk about, I'm really happy to do that. And as always, please, if you like this video, click subscribe and like. We want to really get that message out there. Thanks very much. Have a great time, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.